Okay, I've got 6:01, so how about we get started? How about that?
Sounds good.
We'd like to welcome everybody. I know we have a couple parents out there. We have two outstanding young educators with us today, Miss Laura Nunley and Rachel Van Dyke. They are the special ed team over at Greendale Elementary School here in Washington County, Virginia. We're so excited to have them with us today. Before I give them their final introduction, I just want to say to the parents, the Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center and Virginia Tech, we're honored. In fact, we're very excited that we can offer a series of videos free to you. And if you go to our website, Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center, you can click on education programs K-12, and we have things for parents for reading, teaching a K-3 student how to read. You're going to see some things about mathematics coming up, from physical education all the way to history and science. Those are coming. But we're especially thankful for Virginia Tech that we get to partner with them, and those are all out there, and they're all free to you. But right now, I'm going to get out of the way because I am not an expert at this. I tell you who is an expert. It's Miss Laura Nunley and Rachel Van Dyke, and they are the special ed team. And so I even have special music to introduce them to.
We're ready.
Let's see. Let's go. Let's see if I can get you to play. Oh, it's not playing. Okay, maybe I can hum a bar. Dun 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 dun. Can you hear it on your end?
No, but we're singing it in our heads.
Okay, I had the Rocky music queued up earlier. Take it away, Laura and Rachel.
Thank you, Mr. David Matlock. Like Mr. Matlock said, I'm Laura Nunley. I'm a special ed teacher at Greendale Elementary School. I've been teaching for 12 years now, so I'm still learning as I go. And this is my fantastic partner, Miss Rachel.
I am Rachel Van Dyke. I teach alongside Laura at Greendale. I've been a teacher for 2 years, been at Greendale both years. So we've developed our little partnership here, and we teach K through 5. We have background in K through 12, but right now we teach K through 5, inclusion and resource. And she handles all the reading and I handle all the math. And like we said in our last presentation, we're not experts and we don't have it all figured out, but we can tell you what we know and we can answer questions that you have, and hopefully you learned something from this today.
Absolutely. So we are going to share just some things that we kind of put together for you all. And like Rachel said, we're not experts by any means. We definitely we make sure to stay on top of professional developments and just with experience, and we really want to hear from you guys and any questions that you might have. And this is recorded too. So if you end up watching the recording of this, please shoot us an email if you have any questions or comments that are related to our professional development or discussion tonight. Just some things we're going to talk about. We did our introductions. Rachel and I are both special ed teachers. We work with kids inside the classroom and outside. I think about this point, almost everyone has, been in contact with a child with special needs, whether it's from work or at home. I know that I have a nephew who is a kiddo with special needs, and I have just learned a lot just from his teachers and, just from my sister and different things that they've done with him. So a lot of information that I use in my classroom today are things that I've learned from other people. We're going to talk about just sensory breaks. We have a really cool sensory slide we're going to share with you guys. We were actually in here breaking as a group of adults, just clicking through our sensory notebook that we have because it's very, very calming. And just talking about, schedules to make at home with your kids during this virtual learning time, show a few visuals, and then really we want to hear back from you guys.
So the first thing that we wanted to talk about is building a study area. So these are 2 examples of study areas from actually children in Laura's family and people that she knows. So these are ones that have been going at it for a couple weeks now, and they've got, as you can see they've got a schedule clearly posted. They've got class rules and expectations posted, and all of their logins are right there ready every single day, and that's super helpful. And they let their kiddos decorate, and it was so cute, and I think that's really fun. It makes it personal. It gets the kids involved. And also a tip that we had was to add pictures of your teachers. So if the kids are in special education, they've got a lot of times a lot of teachers. So like we have kids that have a gen ed teacher and maybe multiple gen ed teachers for different subjects. They've got Miss Nunley for reading in special education, me for math and special education. So there's a whole lot of us, and maybe it's ones that you haven't met yet because of the virtual situation. So pictures of teachers is great just for them to put a face with a name and learn who teaches what. And then another tip that we had was just have all materials ready and available every day. So there's no hunting for them. There's no asking mom or dad where they are, and everything's just right handy for them.
Yeah, and a good thing too about just the study areas, especially the tall ones, that's why I put these examples in. If you have multiple kids, and these two kiddos are siblings, so they have these up, and it's a distractor, so they're not, distracting one another with, their learning, and it doesn't get too loud, and it's kind of a sound blocker as well. But there are so many different things that you can do with these. Pinterest, I mean, it's just loaded with ideas. I know that my personal kids, they have pictures of their teachers up in it that we just printed out for 20 cents, and it added a little touch to it. So this is just an example for schedules to have at home. I know that visuals, we are all about visuals and just having a schedule. So what you see over here on the left, this is a 5th grader. And actually, this is my son. He gave us permission to use this. This is his schedule. And the cool thing about it is we built the schedule together. We talked about it. We discussed it. He told me this is about how long I can go, and I'm at school until I need a break. And we built those in. We like our midday snacks, our mid-morning snacks. So we built those in, and he got to be a part of it. So when you're building a schedule for your child, make sure that you include them to get their opinion on it as well. One thing that we also like to do is almost everything we have is laminated for dry erase purposes. So our kiddos love to check off whenever they've completed a task. And even as an adult, I love a list. I love to cross through when I'm finished it. And, you just kind of feel successful. It lets the kid take some ownership and accountability. And then you can just wipe it off and you start the next day. And it's a good visual for, us as parents that are trying to be a little hands off, but we can kind of see where they're going. But it's a good way to monitor and keep up with their different activities.
And if you don't have a laminator at home, or you don't have these resources at home, contact your SPED teachers at your school. If they're anything like us, they're more than willing to build these with you and your child, to make them for you, whatever the need may be. So get up with them, any materials that you need for their study area, get up with your school and ask them, and I'm sure they'll be more than glad to help. So you don't have to go out and buy everything. There's no need when your school already has it available.
Yeah. And another example, over on the other side, the right, this would be more for a non-reader kiddo. If you're a kiddo who is a struggling reader and you're solely relying on visuals. So this is a link that's going to be saved in there for you all to have access to. And you can go in, you can edit and use some of the images that have been placed in here to build your own schedule. A lot of it has already been inputted. There have been some great examples of schedules. It might be where you have to break your schedules apart from AM to PM, shorter chunks of time, just depending on how your kid is with attention and focus. And the link in here that it will be shared with you, it just has a variety of schedules that you can use for your kiddos at home.
And you'll kind of know as you go along, you can see where your student or your child would be having an issue with the class, or they have a frustrating task that takes a little bit longer for them. You'll know as you go along when that you need to build breaks in. And then that gets us on to our next slide, is some good break opportunities and some sensory items.
All right, hit it.
So as we move into this sensory break ideas, a lot of our kids with special needs have that sensory issue, that tactile issue where they need to touch things, hold things. So I put in some ideas, and a lot of it's visual as well. They need to see things that are calming and see things that help them with their attention and focus. So this over here on the right is a box that we use at school, and it's super easy, super cheap. It's just a simple tote box with rice and beans and grains for that touch sensation. But then we also added letters and numbers in there so they can go on a word hunt or a letter hunt or whatever they may need. And then I added in a video that you all can watch, and we'll send out this presentation when we're finished to all the participants and anybody who might want to see it or click on these links of how to make sensory bottles. And that can be done for just a few dollars. And our kids love these sensory bottles for break time. And especially if they've been staring at a screen for a long time, their eyes get tired, their attention gets weak. So if they can come over to a corner of a room or their study area where they have these materials handy, it's really, really helpful. And then down here, I linked in a sensory box things that you can buy from Amazon that are super cheap, or your school may already have. I just linked it in case you might want to ask your school for it, or if you wanted to purchase it to make a sensory box.
And I'll tell you something that is as cheap as $2 that I have used in my classroom for several years, and we even use them at home, is a Ziploc baggie, and hair gel and food coloring. And you fill in your baggie full of an entire bottle of hair gel. And that hair gel now, it comes in different colors as too. You add a couple of drops of any color your kid might prefer, and then you just tape off the top part of the Ziploc bag. And it's just a little sensory bag that they can write letters on. We have a couple in our home that's kind of scattered throughout that my daughter especially loves to use. We actually made one the other night because we had a slime epic fail. We didn't have activator, that she likes to call it, but we ended up just taking the glue and the shaving cream and putting it in a baggie. We duct taped the top part, and she just kind of calls it her relaxing bag, and she can just fidget with it. And she uses it, different ones like that, whenever she's listening to videos on Google Classroom, just to help her keep her focus and her attention.
So then one of the neatest things that we've found through this virtual learning that we have loved as adults, our kids have loved all across the board, whether they have special needs or not, is this virtual calming notebook. And this was shared by our guidance counselor to us, who got it from another guidance counselor.
It's gold.
And I'll just show you briefly some of the things that are in it that we have absolutely loved. And this is, like I said, hyperlinked for you. You'll be able to get access to this and use it at home as much as you want. So one of our favorite things is this live camera, and it pulls up all kinds of different zoos. And your kid can find any animal that they might want to look at.
You all, this is our golden ticket. We actually, when we found out that our county was switching from hybrid to virtual, and we were stressed out, like, what are we going to do? You know, what do we do next? Where do we start? Well, our guidance counselor had shared this with us, and the next thing that we knew, we were just mesmerized. And we had been watching zoo animals for 15 minutes, and then we realized, we were like, hey, we feel calm. Thank you, elephant at the San Diego Zoo.
Absolutely. And your kid is going to love that these are live. And I know we as adults even loved it, and we've played around with it so much now. And you'll find as you go through this, there's different things for coloring, breathing techniques. And breathing techniques are really good for those anxious kids that get worked up. It's got great stretching and yoga if you need to get your kid active in between assignments. Some things that could help them fall asleep after they've been looking at a screen all day. Helpful tips in there. Games and puzzles, things to journal with. It is chocked full of amazing resources.
It really is.
And then within this chill zone, there's so many different links in here to social stories. There's fidget spinners, Rubik's cubes, sensory bottles. There's places to draw, worksheets that they can draw online with, all kinds of amazing resources within this. So we highly, highly recommend that you go in here and check this out and figure out how you can use it.
If you go back to that, you're going to see some Howard B. Wigglebottoms. And these are books. They're really great for your kiddos with attention deficit, whether it be the hyperactive or just the hypo deficit. This bunny, he's funny, and kids really can relate to him. He struggles with paying attention. He's a favorite at our school, and they've got several of the stories linked here. I'm telling you, as a parent or a gen ed teacher, an administrator, a special ed teacher, this is just jam packed. Like, you can click on different things. You can use fidget spinners and to spin to get how many, well, the kids are a lot better at this than I am. it's not going to let me do it right now. But they spin it and they just can see how many times they're going to do it, and they can guess. And I think I'm covering it up, but everything. I think one way that this will really be utilized, especially in a classroom setting, is for recess. I know that our resources for recess are going to be limited when we do return to school, so we look forward to having this as an option.
And a thing that we've used it for too is what we like to call and tell the kids is brain breaks.
Yes.
So when they're feeling tired, they're feeling overwhelmed, you can give them a brain break. But one thing that I do want to recommend when you do a break like this is to set parameters for that break. It's not just a free time, free for all. You play as however long you want to. Set parameters for that break before you ever let them have one. Let them know that it can be, if you want it 5 minutes long, 8 minutes long, use a visual timer. And when you get a little sand timer. When the sand timer runs out, then your break is over and it's time to return to your work.
And I thought that's one thing we do have on the slide. Timers are a great visual for breaks, or just for setting a duration of time for how long they're expected to work. And kiddos with special needs, no matter what it may be or what label, they just really need that direct instruction of knowing exactly what we need from them as teachers and as parents. And a timer is just a great visual for that as well. So we are very keen on social stories at Greendale Elementary School. That my nephew that I mentioned earlier, he goes to a school in North Carolina, and his special ed teacher uses a lot of social stories with him. And I noticed that whenever we were trying to find social stories that pertain to COVID-19 and just, interaction with other people during this time, there weren't a whole lot out there. So another special ed teacher that we work with just did a lot of digging, and she came across two, and I think they're really great. And this one that I'm going to open, which you'll have access to for your kiddos, this one discusses what the virus is. And I'm sure by now that your child has been aware that they have to wear masks, or they're going to see people in masks, and they've heard of COVID-19 or Corona, and they've had questions, or if we're constantly telling them to wash their hands. This kind of states why and why things are different right now. And it's a great visual for that. It's very simple, so your beginning readers could even read it. There's great visuals for your non-readers, and we will share that with you all as well. Here's another one that I think is just beneficial for all kids of every age. And it's basically, why are we wearing masks? Why do I see people in masks? Why do I have to wear a mask? So this is a social story that just answers those questions as to what is going on. Why are we having to wear these things? Why do we have to stay apart 6 feet? So this will be available for you as well. I think that it's great for just all kiddos, just for their safety and just for, informing them as to why the world kind of is like it is right now, sadly. And then it shows real pictures of, real people in masks. So this will be available for you guys to have as well.
And we kind of use social stories to not only improve behaviors, which is a lot of what social stories are for, but we kind of use them to alleviate the stress of something new or something different. If something's changing, it kind of can help alleviate that stress and anxiety that's on a student. Mm-hmm. And that brings me to the activity in the middle that we did with one of a group of our kids. And I think it would be great for you to do, whether you're in virtual and you just want to talk to them about it at home, or if they're getting ready to go back hybrid, whatever your situation may be. So this activity, you can take, a blue pencil and a green pencil and put the blue one in their hand and the green one on the table, or whatever item you have available, and ask them, which pencil do you have control of? And you can talk about how they'll say the one that's in their hand they can control. And you can talk about the things that you can hold in your hand that you can control. So we trace the hand, and then we say, what are the things about this virus or about school that we can control? And you write things that you can control. And then you talk to them about anything outside of the hand as things that they cannot control. So we've seen kiddos, and friends that have been taught to social distance, they've been taught to wear their mask, and then they go to school and they're like, this person's not social distancing, what do I do? And it's just that stress of they don't understand that other people are not in their control. They cannot control what other students are doing. They can only control what they are doing. So we thought this was a really great activity that we included, and it was shared by our guidance counselor as well.
Some things on positive reinforcement. And like I said, we definitely are learning as we go. One thing we said that we do use timers. We have several different timers that we use. There are going to be kiddos that do not like the ones with sounds. There will be kids that will only want the ones that are the sand. That kind of reminds you of the hourglass from Days of Your Lives, or Our Lives. But yeah, so there are so many out there. And once again, reach out to your special ed teachers. They can hook you up, or they can send you an Amazon link of where they maybe have ordered theirs. These are a couple of charts that we do for positive reinforcement at school, and they're also great to do at home whenever it's your kid's virtual day. But just remember that you are in control. You're their teacher. You're their parent at the same time, and that's very difficult. I can relate to that as well. But you are in control, and you get to determine that what they do and don't do. And one thing that I'll go over is the if you do, then you can chart. So this can be something simple as even just making this on a piece of notebook paper and writing it with a pen, and having them fill it in for the day, or if you prefer using pictures. But basically this is saying if you do your reading work, then you can. And for this example would be to go outside and swing. So it kind of gives them something to look forward to, knowing that they've got something positive that's waiting them if they do what they've been asked to do.
And one thing that we'll touch on just briefly with positive reinforcement is there is a definite difference between reinforcing a behavior and bribing a behavior. And it's harder, I know, with your own child than it even is with within a classroom. But you want to make sure that you're reinforcing that behavior immediately or during while you're giving them the prize, but you cannot give them something in order to get what you want out of it. It's got to be they perform the act, you reward them with whatever you've discussed and whatever you've planned. And that's the thing about positive reinforcement, is it is planned. It's not just spur of the moment. Because bribery only influences that bad behavior in that moment. Whereas positive reinforcement, when you come at it with a plan, it's going to strengthen that behavior and maintain it over a lot longer period of time. And it can really increase that student motivation, and like I said, increase those long-term positive behaviors.
Yeah. Another positive reinforcement system that you can use, and this is something that we've had to implement with one of our kiddos, is a token system. And what you can do is you can have a certain amount of tokens that they start with, and maybe they lose them throughout the day, if which would be a visual showing that what they have left and they're in control of. But it also could be used in more of a positive way of every good thing that you do, everything that you work on independently, your good choices, then you are rewarded with a token. And we've seen them being utilized as just plain tokens, or pom-poms you can get at the Dollar Tree, or one of the teachers uses marbles, just that actual tactile object they can hold in their hand is game changer for those kiddos with special needs.
Absolutely.
And honestly, what we wanted more than ever was to have the opportunity tonight for parents to ask any questions that they might have. And like that, we've said before, we don't have all the answers, but we will absolutely do what we can to find the answers. And one of the most important things that we feel is building a rapport with our students, but also now more than ever with our kiddos' parents. We are in contact with almost, how many kids do we have on our caseload this year?
20.
We have 20 kids, and we are constantly in conversation, some way, shape, form, with our parents, because right now parents, you guys are driving the bus. You are driving the bus of this academic instruction, and we're passengers, and you guys have done a fantastic job, and we are so thankful to have the support from the parents that we do. And we just want to know, you all to know that we're here for support, and anything that you guys might have as questions, we will do our absolute best to answer. So anything, and I know that did not take as long as we had planned, but are there any questions on anything that we shared, comments, concerns you might be having? We received one question, and I'm going to pull that up while Rachel pulls back to the slide. We received one question. I'm going to just pull that up while we're waiting. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to answer.
And we are checking the chat as well. So if you have a question that you want to type, go ahead and type that in the chat.
Yes, please. So one of the questions that we have is, how do we keep our kids on task without having to say by their side? And I think that is a question that a lot of parents are asking. How can we teach our child to be independent, and to do a lot of their work on their own from home, with not, because we know parents have jobs too. And just to kind of go to follow up with that, you're probably not going to be able to leave them for extended amount of time. And that's where that timer comes into place. That's where the if and then chart comes into place. If you can work independently and stay focused for 10 minutes, then we're going to go outside and we're going to swing for 5. And just having little rewards throughout the day. It can be something as simple as a piece of candy. That is what, I will admit that I have been doing for mine. If you can get one Google Classroom assignment knocked out, then, you can have part of a pack of sweet tarts or something like that. So, just little positive reinforcements and shortening and putting their day into little chunks.
And it doesn't have to be, she mentioned the candy, that's a great option. We've mentioned tactile things they can hold, that's a great option. But maybe your kid loves to play with a certain item they have, and they want to play with that item. Go ahead and use that as their reinforcer. Anything that they love and that they would be interested in, go ahead and let them choose and let them be a part of what their reinforcer would be. And I think, as she mentioned, maybe 10 minutes. We'll try the 10 minutes first, and if that's working, up it to 20. If that's working, up it to 30. And of course, the older your student is, the more that they should be able to do things on their own and to do independent work. So you have to kind of customize that to your student and your needs at home.
Yeah. And you'll trial and error, definitely trial and error for teachers and for parents. Another question that we received is, how can I get my daughter with autism in first grade to do her assignments without becoming frustrated? Well, that's a great question, because I think that everyone is frustrated right now. So I'm just going to kind of tell you one thing we did for a 3rd grader at Greendale who has autism and was becoming very frustrated. So once we met with mom, and mom said, my child is extremely overwhelmed. He's very frustrated. All this work in Google Classroom, having to come in and be served by you guys, we have to make this easier for him because we're having complete meltdowns at home. And we let mom talk, we listen, because we don't know what's going on at home unless parents tell us. So what we were able to do by mom expressing the concern that she was seeing at home, we were able to get access to the Google Classrooms of the grade level teachers. We were able to go in and modify the instruction that was being given each day. So we were able to reduce the assignments. We shortened the videos. That was where the child was getting frustrated. The videos were way too long. He was just losing concentration. Then when he was asked questions on it, he had no idea. They were spending hours of rewatching videos. So finally, as a team, we sat down and said, the videos are going to go. We're going to reduce the assignments. And anything that wasn't a video, we will just teach, or his aide will go over with them at school. And that was about 2 weeks ago. And since then, there have been fewer meltdowns, the kid is more happy, is more excited about doing the work in person and virtual. So my answer to that question about keeping your child from being frustrated is talk to her special ed teacher and her gen ed teacher and devise a plan that allows them, holds them accountable, but it allows them to be successful right now, because more so than ever, we really need our kids to feel successful with this virtual learning.
And we've actually had 2 parents that have come in and said, something's not working. Can we please sit down and talk about this? And we didn't do a full-on IEP meeting, but we did sit down as a team, and we thought of ideas that still held their child accountable, still made them a responsible student at home, but allowed them to get that curriculum and get the things that they needed in a better manner for them. And that's part of their accommodations and modifications. When your teachers set all these things up, they were keeping the child in mind, but we don't know as educators what your child needs at home until you all come to us and say, this is specifically what's not working. Can we please sit down and come up with some ideas or things that can help? So we welcome that at Greendale. We love when our parents come chat with us and talk to us and give us that feedback.
Yeah, and I would think one thing that I would want parents to know, even that weren't Greendale parents, is do not be intimidated by your child's special ed teacher. And I hope that you don't feel that way towards them now, or if they haven't given you a reason to feel that, because we are here as a liaison, as just a mediator with gen ed teachers, and we're here to help answer your questions and to help your child. And I hope that you do feel comfortable going with your SPED teacher, because you should definitely reach out to them. We try to make sure our parents feel comfortable with us, and we try to answer all the questions that we can, because we don't want anybody to just avoid having contact with us, because we're here to help too. And we mentioned in our teacher panel that teamwork makes the dream work, and parents, you are a big part of our team as well. So yeah, make sure that you're involved with your classroom teachers, your kids' classroom teachers and SPED teachers as well. But those were the only 2 questions that I'd had from our end. So if there aren't any questions of people that are watching live, then please know that if you are watching the recording, to contact, I can give you, my email is lnunley@wcs.k12.va.us, and Rachel and I will be glad to try to answer and find the answer to any questions that you guys might have. But that is all that we have for tonight, unless anybody else has anything.